And it is this. See all this. This is red, and it's all. What the hell happened there? So my Harry's razor. I hope that there's. I guess there's acid in ketchup. I hope it doesn't start eating through the razor or something. But I guess for a couple of days this has been. So the razor. I mean, this just has that, strip of. It's horrible. Looks like the razor's all right though. So I just will wash this off. But we have to do that, and that's gonna take a long time. I hope that didn't get all over the. Turns out we had. Because I got a shave, got 2 of these left, so it looks like that's all right. But what happened was there was a pack of ketchup in the razor, so I put that in with my condiments. Every time I can find mayonnaise, because I've got these what I call rations. So the mayonnaise is all right. These rations are like tuna packets. When I was at the University of Hawaii, they're like 5 years old or something like that. But apparently, just like with canned goods, you open the thing up, and it doesn't smell bad. It's all right. They're definitely not fresh, but I can mix it with some mayonnaise there, and I've got, I can't always be tied to the food's great, by the way. You can go through the line and get seconds, but I can't always be tied to Father Joe's Villages because I have to be out and about meeting people, doing things, and when I have an idea, I gotta put the camera on myself. But so much to do, and it's, I guess the lesson to take from this is don't get lazy and just put the razor. This is the last time I shaved. This when I filmed that video of me shaving. Narrate your way through life, and everything works out. So the way it kind of ends up working out is that I always say something. I got to tell my personal assistant, turn to the left, turn to the right, and say, get started on this, get the ball rolling on this, and they delegate tasks to the people under them. And all of this is happening, and there's 10 hands moving around me, virtually and physically, and I can, since I'm not good at what they would call executive functioning, that means I'm an executive because I tell other people to do that stuff, and it has to do with speed of movement. But just like retarded real estate brokers learn everything to pass the real estate test, Ted Federitz, incredible guy, Key Realty in Las Vegas, he said, talking to a tape recorder, just, look at the textbook, read NRS 645, NAC 645, which is the administrative code that the real estate division uses there, which is chartered by the Real Estate Commission. So they follow NAC 645, which is based on NRS 645 there to regulate real estate brokers and salespeople. Just read it into a tape recorder, listen to it, listen to your own voice, read into a tape recorder, listen to your own voice. And if you have an idea, put it on a tape recorder. And so it just kind of ends up, since I don't have personal assistants, me having to watch my own videos. And then I become that person. But you see how that takes that much more time and that much more time and that much more time. If I told someone else and there's another brain, it gets to work immediately. It's not, I'm going to watch some of my videos and, I realized I told myself to do something, or I told my personal assistant to do something. So I'll step into that role. And I've got that little video here, and then I'm on the computer, I'm putting it in the calendar and doing this, using AI for this, generating this, putting in a job application. But it would have been done 2 or 3 days ago, not just me going through a queue of YouTube videos and loving the sound of my own voice and realizing, I can now step into the role of my own personal assistant. Someone else has to immediately get to work for me. But the reason I'm here, and we'll cut to the chase, to talk to you is I want to talk about a woman named Cristhel Carinio. And there's a lot of ways to look at this story. In fact, I'm going to have to start a series called The Dream Within Us, because that's what I was going to title my book, about my years in Hawaii's public school system. And in fact, my years in high school, I was writing the book before I even got out of high school. I was actually at that time going to call it Troy Freight Train, because it was going to be, the title was going to be, because my kind of mentor in high school was my freshman algebra teacher, who was terrible at it. He could rape your head with polynomials. He really was the worst. And like I said, they should have been teaching us calculus in elementary school. And then we can, like I say, reverse engineer our way back to arithmetic by the end of those 12 years we spend in public school, trying to solve the problems we want to solve about the universe. And if counting change in a cash drawer is one of them, we should arrive at that by route of knowing, the physics behind the biggest star systems in our universe, and the biggest, not star system, what are they called? Whatever structures in the nebula, whatever they call it. So that's the way it should be. You got to take pre-calculus. Well, you reverse engineer that. You reverse engineer trigonometry, you reverse engineer geometry, you reverse engineer all of that because you know all of those things and you ingrain it and drill it into the head in elementary. So here's Troy Freitas raping your head with polynomials, but that doesn't make sense until later. And he was a good person because he was a great mentor. And I said, mentor me in Christianity, because you gotta keep everybody, all your slaves under the Christian religion when you're the president of the United States, because I was gonna run for president of the United States. So I said, mentor me in Christianity and what was the other thing? Leadership after school. So I would go and for like an hour after school, and that's where I met Cristhel. And there were these beautiful kind of short young ladies. One was named Jamie, one was named Chanel Namahoe. Her middle name is Frienda, like something Spanish or something. It's from mainland. It's from mainland, not mainland. Mainland. If it's like something out of L.A. She's got a Spanish middle name, Frienda Namahoe, and then Jamie Perry was her name. I saw a picture of her in the Honolulu Star Advertiser, and she is currently still that cute young woman that's very short, and she's got that cute baby face. But she's a teacher now, and she had her HSTA, Hawaii State Teachers Association, the logo of brainwashing Soviet Union Iron Curtain Union, teachers union. Raise my pay, strike. Everybody goes home. Students don't come. Well, they'll get rid of all the schools. All of that is just get rid of it. We don't need this. And then Keahi Tucker comes on. Da 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 da. I'm Keahi Tucker, and talks about leads. This is the first story. A block. First story is teachers are on strike. And just all our memories of Linda Lingle furlough, and the teachers went on strike 5 years ago and 15 years ago, and teachers went on strike when I was in public school. And just all the emotion and raise the pay. These are such important people. No, the schools are raping children's minds with polynomials when they didn't even teach them calculus in elementary. Like I said, they should get rid of it, sit them in front of a computer at home, because the homes are worth so much in Hawaii. Like here in the coastal area, San Diego, the homes are worth so much. They cost so much to buy. If these are the homes they're living in, then they need to be staying in those homes, getting most used out of them instead of not being at home. So just, everybody has a computer. Schools are raping their minds. But I'm going to talk about Cristhel Carinio. So he just loves these white women. She was Filipino with white features. In fact, later turned out she was Mormon. And, they all start young. But I found myself kind of drawn into her because she was playing a guitar. And Mr. Freitas had gone and was doing some stuff. And so she was like noodling on the guitar. This was the era of Colbie Caillat, Falling for You. And John Mayer had come out with Room for Squares the previous year, and she really liked this song, Your Body is a Wonderland. And so these were genius high school students. And so much of what I observed, my initial observation of her life was she was going to go to college on the mainland. So I was like, there's no way she's not going to go to college on the mainland. And she was talking about her sex life with Jamie and Chanel. They were in the room, and I was just kind of sitting there in the teacher's desk chair, reading. There's, something from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Remember, a person's name is the sweetest sound in any language. When someone does that, repetition, you reflect back at the person. It's kind of a little bit of that NLP stuff. It just grab the person's hand, rip the. Yeah, I know, I'm doing it, but you should try to do your own thing. And so she's kind of. This was another time. So it wasn't when she was talking about her sex life with, but she and those two girls were like talking about. Her boyfriend comes over. Like, gee, man, your parents must own a lot of rental property if somehow you're somewhere where your parents aren't there, and you guys can have sex or something like that. But about her boyfriend, I don't know if it was Chanel or Jamie, but she would come over, or the boyfriend would come over, and he would come very quickly, and then they'd wait like 20 minutes, and then he would put it back in her, and then make her come very many times, and then come in her. So I sometimes wonder. So Jamie didn't really develop very big breasts, but I wonder if birth control at that age since I guess their parents let them take it, or they somehow got birth control, whatever the law was there. That, I tell my doctor I need birth control for it. That might stop girls from developing breast. Or I know antipsychotics do. It's like we're born into full equality DEI covenants. These delusion covenants, DEI, equity, and the parents really have this dream of there shouldn't be man and woman, and everyone should be a lesbian born in a test tube. So it gives the man breasts, makes their penis not develop, and for the woman it makes them not have breasts that develop, and their butts get a little bigger from it, but it's anyway. So then Cristhel, on another day, was noodling on this guitar, and somehow we ended up at a point in my kind of, talking to her from far away as I was sitting at the teacher's. I was kind of moving closer, like musical chairs, and it's this bubbly speed at which I was kind of talking about Joe Brundage. I didn't like his public displays of affection with his girlfriend at the time, because he was the president of the student council. I did not like that he was, doing it out in public that way. That's how kids do it. You hold your girlfriend's hand in the hall, because that, why would I do that? I'm having sex with her in my own home that I own. Why would I be, acting like a kid that way with the woman that, I've impregnated once or twice? That's just the way I was thinking. That's what I was kind of having a conversation about. And they were talking about, what am I going to do about my penis? And she was noodling on this guitar in this very bubbly way. And it was a very, and I didn't know this at the time. It took me because they started medicating me about, not even within a month of this happening, my freshman year in high school. She was a senior. So this started happening not even a month after that, when I saw this psychiatrist, and they took me there, and now things were going to really go to hell. But she said, "I'll be your girlfriend," and it was just, she kept noodling on the guitar. It was a kind of bubbly thing, and I was supposed to at that point get my hand in there, and of course we're not going to do it that way like Joe Brundage and that black girl. So what ended up happening, and maybe this is how Mormon mind control or something was using me. They were using voice to skull at the time. I don't know, but I create this heebie-jeebie. And then a girl they know is eugenic and needs to procreate. And so she ended up being knocked up by her boyfriend, Ehren Stuber, within like months of this thing happening. And by the time graduation, so she was a junior at the time, I think. So yeah, she was class of 2007. I was, anyway, whatever it was, we'll do the math on it, put it in the description. But yeah, she was a senior, so she was going to graduate that year. No, she was a junior. So she had one more year left. And so when she was giving the senior class speech for Admiral Arthur W. Radford High School in Hawaii, she was senior class president, so she's going to give the speech. And she was 8 months pregnant. Like, what do we say about this? Like, that's, if you watch Grease with John Travolta, that's the bad girl that gets knocked up. But not in the Mormon world. But they use me to create this heebie-jeebie like this, like, so that her eugenic boyfriend and her come to this conclusion at an early age that you see why we need to procreate, so that we beat these retards that are being given everything. And he gets mentored by Mr. Freitas. Mr. Freitas sucks and he's stupid. He's a terrible math teacher and this. But she actually never ended up getting a college degree. And her life trajectory from Facebook, I found out she ended up becoming a Delta ramp agent in Salt Lake City, big Mormon town. And of course she works, according to the last I've seen, at Lululemon Athletica. So she had that look. She had the yoga pants. She had and it's not so much white features so much as eugenic features. She was a quality person, quality body, quality face, quality female. Looked really good. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is to talk about this, that this is just the way things go, and you don't realize this until years and years and years later because you're drugged. Things are supposed to make sense. Well, okay, I guess I'll fuck Jamie then, since there's a place she can go where her parents aren't there, and I can ram it in her that way, since I don't get that one. But you move on with life, and you move on to the next. And on drugs, you don't realize that. And so what ends up happening is you become obese, obese, obese. All the teachers were noticing too. He's gaining 50 pounds. He gained 80 pounds. And, you know, I've got the kind of family that you know, is kind of thinking to themselves, what would his father say if he had a father figure? And he would, of course, say, Makti, quality bodies are not for everyone. It is not for you, that you live in the mind. The running a marathon is for others to do. Let them have that success story and live your own life. And so they had produced documentation saying, take him out of physical education. I said, I'm not going to complain about it. They took me out of PE. And I remember the discussions that were happening between you know, the PE teacher, Ms. Mitchell, and other people in the school. Like, they're nuts. He's put on 80 pounds. He's taking this medication. He needs PE more than anybody else. They were all, you know, Mr. Chang I started getting a little chubby in like middle school, not that much. I could still get my dick above my belly fan. But Mr. Chang, he was always talking about, because he was a like Army reservist or something. He was always talking about, this was in the era of Afghanistan, Iraq. He just, oh, I'm going to get deployed. I'm going to get deployed. You got to carry 50-pound boxes up 5 flights of stairs, and that's why they sell dumbbells at Walmart. And let's live in reality, and this is stuff that has economic value, and that's why I'm going to get deployed, and that's life, and that's the best way to wait to die, and we're all waiting to die. Look at the homeless people. It's a better way to wait to die than that. Yes, okay. When I tell the story about it, when I write my autobiography, and I put The Dream Within Us in the 4-book autobiography. We'll talk about that later. But even he said, you know, we can get that weight off of you in probably a month. I was probably about 10 or 20 pounds overweight. And, you know, so much of what he told me does stick with me. And, you know, in the years after, actually just a few years after I graduated, I'll put up the picture for you, or I'll link to it if I don't have time to edit this in. I went with my camera, after started being a stringer photographer, back there to Foster Village, as they had a Radford High School, so a new generation of students walking through those vaunted halls, had a, you know, homecoming parade. And I took some pictures out in the band, and I honed in on this young couple walking together, and so I'll put up those pictures from that homecoming parade. But there was this, he was the, I don't know, everybody would call him like the colonel, and he's the one that made Savannah Frank, the Marine that was based in Texas. She was a senior when I was a freshman also. So many of the names that came out of Radford that were military stars, he made all of them because they were all through his ROTC program. He even kind of like looked at me and just, you could tell in his eyes, and it was just, you know, there was nothing we could do for this guy. And here he is with a camera, you know, doing a worm's eye view of him walking with the ROTC marching through and the band. And there's this look of just shame that an American that could have had a lot of value had no value. So anyways, I'll put that picture in there for you. And the thing with Cristhel, that's why I just want to talk about her a little bit. This has to do with the concept of, in my book, The Dark Parts of Wisdom, that's coming out. My head already knew that I look for people that are not going to be dead ends. And by the looks of it, on paper, unless she does have an advanced college degree in the sciences and doesn't disclose it, which this is another class of people where they can go and exploit, say, rural communities because they have these genius minds, know what to do, and they could go into fields like insurance sales, genius real estate broker kind of thing, and they don't disclose they have degrees from universities because that's the kind of thing that in these communities, for reasons, is frowned on because of the conservative values that they're taught. So they would not put on their LinkedIn, or they would not put on their, you know, Facebook that I'm from. I have alumni club of, you know, SDSU or UH. We don't talk about this. So we don't have friends from college. We weren't these elite people that went to Bishop Gorman that get automatic admission to, or went to Punahou in Hawaii that get automatic admission to flagship UC and Cal State schools like UCLA and USC. We're not those people. These people are complete liars. They go to school, have sex, and they pass them through, and it's all a big waste of money, and it's all a big waste of time, and that's what these rich families get. And the calculus is impossible. It's insanity. It's just like that the earth is a sphere and the world is really flat. They made up all of these lies to remap, you know, a sphere over, or a flat that's what the Bible says about it. So they remapped it over this thing called a sphere, and none of it's all lies to exclude my genius, and I'm not going to be stopped from procreating by the fact that I looked at this math book and I knew how bogus it all was and what bullshit these elites were making up to keep me out of the gene pool. Okay, so we're going to not disclose that we have a college degree to go and exploit a rural town or rural county in ways that someone that does not have a college degree would not be able to. Right? So that's one class of people. Like Larry the Cable Guy. Well, I mean, it's on Wikipedia, but who would ever guess that this guy is educated? Someone has to help me with my ketchup. One of the things I talk about in the dark parts of wisdom is I innately knew I don't want to start dating anyone that is a trap for me, a socioeconomic trap. And I actually talked about this a little bit in my video about why you need a trophy wife with a language barrier. That's not to say that I didn't also innately have within me the knowledge that you can upgrade from someone. And that said, the book Comeback of the Century talks about my, 3-tier plan. And that includes, like Donald Trump, a 3-wife template and zero monogamy. And that is very important because that's the book I would have needed to make the moves on people that I needed to make and try to get my hands on people that I needed to get my hands on, whether medicated or not, to realize if I'd already been dragged into that level of hell, well, I'm going to need to stop taking these medications because it's what's stopping me from getting my hands on people, and realizing that sooner before I ended up 400 pounds, like in Carlos Mencia's song, DTD, the DTD song, where sitting in front of a computer, eating all this food, watching television, sitting on a couch, trying to figure this all out, DTD. And that this is knowledge I think your children need. This is knowledge that you need. This book, Comeback of the Century, yes, it's about me. It's my case to have people donate property to me, donate lifestyle to me, so that I can, really operate at a level that I'm trained to operate at and win in every arena of life. Because it takes money, it takes that connection. Medication prevented me from getting the ring on someone's finger. Like all these women on the real estate website, Compass, here in San Diego, you look at all these women I showed all the people. You look at their picture and then you look at another one, there's always a ring on the finger. They know, I know too, but medication made that connection impossible in ways that I have explained. And so we couldn't combine the wealth, couldn't get the wedding day, and I'm homeless. So that's my argument for that. But it also contains beautiful wisdom that I think your sons need to know especially, but your daughters also, your children need to know this. So we've got this three places in the crosshairs across the coast of California, or across California, not the coast per se, but San Bernardino, further south, and then Mount Diablo. My plans are diabolical. It's the devil, Diablo burger from Carl's Jr. Very, very spicy burger. And then you've got Humboldt all the way up north. So there's 3 things across the landscape that are the same thing, 3 all in one, like a godhead of sorts. And the most important or the most crucial way to what are these placed in, and what are these dipsticks placed in terms of stratification? It's socioeconomic strata. So there's poor, upper middle class, and then Donald Trump, life and above, like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And so I'm connected to all levels at the same time to suck in the money I need to be moving between just above Mount Diablo and into Humboldt, and to be existing as this particle bouncing back and forth to exploit the people down there, so that I'm not ever down there with them like I am now in Father Joe's villages. But in order to talk about all of this stuff, I share some wisdom, a lot like what I just shared in this video. So that doesn't mean don't take the starter girl. It means make sure you do, but don't forget this stuff. And here's why this is so important. This model and living with this knowledge, which is basically to be a conscious developer, like I've been talking about, is absolutely necessary if and this is the big thing, we've got, speaking of these rural communities, I talked about this hypothetical situation where someone with a college degree might not disclose their college degree, wipe that off of LinkedIn, not have any connection to these highfalutin people on Facebook in order to exploit a local community because they have the knowledge to do it, and that knowledge includes, don't disclose you have a college degree. To that kind of point, you may have to, let's put it this way, you're just going to have to, the problem is religious morality. The problem is religious morality. One wife, but everybody that's kind of upper middle class knows that that's in heaven. That we have the flesh, and they talk about pleasures of the flesh, but it is the flesh. Only really, really, really low do you have stuff like in, Silence of the Lambs, the one they made after that. Like they had Jigsaw Killer, and then they had Saw 1, Saw 2, Saw 3, just for sci-fi, which is kind of funny if you watch those. And but for the Silence, I forgot what it was called, but they had one. They had there's a sequel, prequel, and then there's this whatever. So. Where it starts out with the mom because he pissed the bed, hitting him, and she cut your penis off. That's kind of the equivalent of that on the moral lesson side versus the corporal punishment side when you're saying stuff about don't jack off, don't do this. But above working class, you don't have that kind of religious. We can be part of a religion for a lot of reasons, including if we fall on hard times, we can go to their food banks that they, because that's Jesus Christ. Everybody's going to be fed, everybody's going to be clothed, and we're part of this community. But we all know people are going to do this and do that, and people cheat on their wives, and they wash their pussy out in a bidet. But the biggest fear that I have right now is that everything that I'm talking about, what's going to happen is certain people from metropolitan areas are going to have to be relocated to rural areas or just other areas. But my thought on it is rural areas. This is my thing. Prophet, watch out for this. Are going to have to be relocated to rural areas at earlier ages, and perhaps it's IQ, perhaps it's just certain cognitive profile, or different genetics, but they're going to have to be identified and relocated. And these are people that wouldn't be diagnosed autistic or schizophrenic, because now they're able to do these more super predatory things that are identified in more metropolitan, highfalutin areas. Like, you don't do that. You don't just show boto. You don't just pull your zipper down and pull your dick out in high school and then start having sex behind the building. But there might be some rural communities, let's say, or places on the outskirts of a metropolitan area where that kind of behavior is seen, perhaps because of conservatism. And you could use Christianity as the justification for that in a lot of ways, right? So you can use that for anything. You can say anything with it, that it justifies a hierarchy, and that men that are more, ready to do it at an early age, know what to show the woman to do it, they are going to be included in the kingdom because they're going to survive in the gene pool kind of stuff. And that's what that means at that level. That's how you have to interpret the scripture. Like I was talking about that guy at a Horizon Mart in Pahrump, Nevada. I'm not saying Pahrump in particular. This may not be that place. There's a lot of things about it that isn't that place, but this is just hypothetical. But in terms of super predatory behaviors, yes, that's definitely a place that it was. Pahrump is paradise, and there was this guy, he just sits down at a slot machine, video poker slot machine at a Horizon Mart, starts playing with one hand, and he's holding up like two $100 bills kind of folded together like this. It's saying to a guy, try to steal it from me, I've got my eye on everything. Like he's trained Navy SEAL or something, but it's saying to a woman, Boto, sit with me and have a good time. So they exploit the fact that conservatism, because it's a very red state, it's this red territory. We have only Nye County Republican Party. Everything's done under Republican in this Nye County. So what they're taking advantage of is that everybody has these values that are, man is the man, woman is the woman. This is how the connection is made. And so I will keep any man away that tries to take my 200, but this is for the woman. So that's how he gets his dick sucked. Right, and so I'm getting out of here. I can't do that anymore. Let's see here. So that's one of the things we have to look out for. and so I always want to make sure I'm not with someone that's a socioeconomic trap. Like, is she okay with that she doesn't have a college degree? Is she okay with that she's a Delta ramp agent? Does she spin out of reality with her husband sometimes and manifest better brain, manifest, better bank accounts? Does she, no, it's not right. She's Ivanka. I'm Ivanka Trump. And does her husband become Jared Kushner for her and then start doing these satanic ceremonies to suck the money from Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump? Because right there, that's what I look for. That's the kind of thing I need to be doing with someone. It actually has a real spiritual power. But knowing that, one of the things we need to be on the lookout for is if they're going to be moving certain people from metropolitan areas to rural areas at very early ages and recommending it, or using mind control, or using propaganda perhaps, and displaying advertisements about real estate or advertisements about certain things that exist in particular rural areas, whether it's in the Southwest or in Heartland, Texas, that they're going to be doing that because now your children that are 10 or 11 that would be diagnosed autistic or schizophrenic or have mental illness in the metropolitan area, in this area will develop normally and procreate and be able to buy their own home if we move you from this area to this area. It's just something to be on the lookout for. But they should go. They should go, but they should take with them the knowledge that they're victims of something. They shouldn't be the victims of what they needed at a certain stage in their life. They should suck in so much money from doing that and having the sexual pleasure that they wouldn't have if they remained in the metropolitan area. They should continue to satanically suck the soul power of Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, and not allow that, because your money is your soul. And knowing that your money is your soul, and I'm going to talk about that in an upcoming video, means right there, you have to have that money. Why does his soul get to be a bigger, more valued soul than my own? I put up a website talking about your money is your soul. In what way? I explain it. I'm going to put a link to it